Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Volpe Bazzo Report. We're taping here on July 10th. Dominic is not with us today. He's back down in Florida having some Mai Tais while he gets geared up for his primary. And he's buying long pants so you don't see him come to the door in those short pants. You look at him like that and he's got pneumonia. My guest host and my Dominic Volpe tonight.
I am Dominic Volpe.
Is Darren Riggert, our official political consultant, and also Peaksville councilman, who is not running for election.
No, I'm not. No. Dominic is down in Florida, getting tan.
Yes.
Getting tan.
He's looking young and refreshed because he's got all these young people helping him out, so he wants to.
He left me up here pasty and white.
He's doing the John Kennedy. He's running with great vigor.
That's it.
Right? Now, listen. We were just talking off the air a minute. You have a lot of stuff going on now with the candidates, political consulting. You have a political consulting firm.
I do.
What's it called?
It's Dynamic SRG. It's a political consulting firm, and we really focus on fundraising consulting, political fundraising, and we'll do fundraising for Democratic candidates or kind of progressive causes and groups.
And you find this, you enjoy doing this?
Yeah, very much. I think it's really great. You know, it's really funny. When I went into politics, I went into it thinking I was going to work like as a campaign manager or field director, something like that. But it slowly became all about money. Campaigns became about who could raise the most money and then use that money to buy polls, to tell them what type of commercials to run.
When you say buy polls, you don't mean rig the polls. You're talking about when
you
see
a
these
good
polls.
Old-fashioned
when
poll.
you read that the poll was taken and it was these things are actual purchase. These are
No, they're legit. They're legit. But if you have a lot of money.
But polls cost money.
Yeah, if you're a rich guy, you can literally poll the community to find out what issue moves them to vote for you, and then with that data, give that to someone who just makes TV and radio commercials, and that's your campaign. And so as we moved from campaigns based on door knocking and handshaking to wealthy people buying the information and the data necessary to sway the voters, and then the artists, the people that make TV commercials and radio ads to sway voters, money became so important. I ended up, what I focused on in my work ended up just moving towards raising money, and the person with the most money almost always wins.
Now, when you say focus, does this also include focus groups?
Well, the pollsters.
Or is that separate?
No, the pollsters use focus groups, absolutely.
Now, what's a focus group?
Well, focus groups usually give you open-ended answers and information that's going to go into your campaign and your data, as opposed to a poll that gives you closed questions. A poll question might be in the upcoming election between Andy and Darren, who do you plan on voting for? And that's a typical kind of horse race. They say, I'm going to vote for Andy, and that's a close.
You've always teased me that my cab is my focus group.
The focus groups are why do you prefer Andy over Darren?
Right.
And they give you that kind of information. What's great also is they have new technology for dial groups, which is fascinating. They're showing that now on TV more and more.
Yeah, Next Iron Chef. Yeah, we've been watching this on Next Food Network Star. Yeah, this little dial.
They do it during debates sometimes. And people go, they spin the dial to the left if they're unhappy with something a candidate is saying or doing, and they spin it to the right if they're happy with what a candidate's saying and doing. And you could see women will react to certain things more than men. Men will react to certain things more than women. It's fascinating.
Yeah, but you always say my cab is my focus group. You've said that on the air a couple of times. That's why I try out my material.
It is. You try your material. Absolutely, you try it out.
And it works. Because you see what we've talked about that, because you'll say to me, Andy, what do your customers think about this? Because locally you really can't pay for a poll, and you're not dealing with that kind of money. But
Jerry Seinfeld always talks about, before he goes out with a big show that you're going to see, like let's say on HBO or at in Las Vegas, someplace like that, he spent months in small clubs testing material.
George Carlin did that here in Peaksville till he died. He would play here.
Yeah.
Paula Poundstone. Jay Leno does it on weekends.
They practice and they try and do jokes, and if they don't work,
Jay Leno
that one didn't work.
Jay Leno says he does this on weekends, getting ready for.
That's what you do in your cab. Oh, that didn't work. That went out of the repertoire.
Now, the difference between you and, let's say, our friend Mike Morey, You're not a spokesman for your candidate.
No, I don't do press and communications. Mike specifically works on press and communications, and he's actually the spokesperson now for Christine Quinn.
Right. So I'm just saying we have a whole separate entity deals with that as opposed to what you deal with.
Correct. Yeah. That's
so to run for a big office like state senator, assemblyman, or New York City,
congressman,
you actually have to have a. This is why you're collecting the money. It's for to pay these people. Because you're trying to meet you can't. The districts are too big to go knocking on all the doors.
Yeah, and my recommendation to anyone who's running for office would be to hire professionals, because too many
even
people
locally?
think, well, if you can afford it. If you can afford it, yeah, even locally, because too many people try to do this with family and friends, and it's a profession. People are doing this for a living.
But you've run local races. You were Democrat Party chairman. On the local level, does anything really beat knocking on doors?
Well,
on the local level.
On the local level, but you need someone to tell you that advice, to go knock on doors. It's always good to have a professional kind of working on the race. I had a campaign manager who told me he made a huge mistake hiring a friend to do something. And it created an awkward dynamic because it hurt their friendship working together, and it wasn't working. The campaign wasn't working. And he said the thing was, you can have someone who is the greatest dentist in the world, but you don't ask that person to cut your hair.
Right.
It doesn't mean that a person is unintelligent or not capable of doing something. People are capable of doing a lot of things, but sometimes you need professionals.
So I forgot, before we go on, I want to remind everybody that you can see my column every week in the Yorktown News and the Mahopac News. You may want to try to get both papers. Because there's never the same column in each paper.
Now I read you online.
Right, yeah, I know. I put online just for the people that don't get the Mahopac News, so they can see what I'm talking about in Mahopac.
And you have a blog?
I do have a blog, Bazzo at Work and Bazzo Manifesto. You can Google either one, Bazzo at Work or Bazzo Manifesto.
Are you on Twitter yet? Are you doing Twitter?
I have Twitter. That's at Bazzo Manifesto.
Do you send pictures of yourself?
No. We're going to talk about that in a minute because we're going to figure out what that focus
Do you send people pictures of your Anthony Weiner?
No, but you were talking about getting guns out of the closet because you think guns should marry. We're going to talk. I want to do two things with you now. Let's first of all do the email you got from Sandy Galiff.
This is really good.
That's the assemblyman.
This is important. So Sandy Galiff sent out a reminder about people that have basic STAR. Not seniors with enhanced STAR, even though they have to re-register every year. This is for people who have basic STAR, and she sent out this reminder letting people know that even though you have the STAR program this year, this is for next year.
2014.
For 2014, and she wants to make sure all homeowners who currently receive a basic STAR exemption are aware that they have to re-register with the New York State Department of Taxation.
2014, right?
That's right. Everyone has to re-register this year. And this was to prevent fraud. They discovered there's a lot of fraud in the system. So to prevent fraud, they're making everyone who had it this year re-register next year. You can get information at the STAR registration line at 518-457-2036, or they actually have a STAR registration page online at www.tax.ny.gov. And then, of course, you can always call your Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff on 914-941-1111.
Now, for the people outside the Peaksville and Cortland area, more towards 684, you may want to either call Senator Greg Ball or Assemblyman Steve Katz.
Is Greg Ball still the senator?
Yes, he is. I hear he's going to run as a Democrat.
I heard he's going to run for Congress.
Well, no, actually, he said he's not. He sent out an email on that he's not going to run. You know, in politics, that's a lifetime away. But I thought
I don't talk about Senator Greg Ball anymore on television. I'm afraid he's going to torture me.
Well, no, I figured that now that you've got...
He likes torture, that's the whole...
Right. See, I figured now that you've got Anthony Weiner running for office again and Elliot Spitzer running for office...
The return of Elliot Spitzer?
Right, Greg Ball would be a good Democrat. I mean, the way you guys talked about him every time he ran.
I don't talk about him anymore on television. I'm
afraid
of him.
Going back to what you were talking about with political consulting and all this, and let's be serious now. We're having fun, and it's fun to pick on these people.
It is.
But what kind of political consultant do you think is involved in convincing Anthony Weiner and Elliot Spitzer they actually have a chance to win? They're not going in this thing just to get their name in the paper. They can get their name in the paper walking down the street.
They do, especially Elliot Spitzer. The fact is, Elliot is jumping into a race where there was not strong candidates running to begin with. There was a candidate, Scott Stringer,
who was a borough president.
Borough president of Manhattan, was running for mayor. Had been running for about a year, but was kind of stuck a little bit behind these other better-known candidates.
He was stuck behind John Liu, who has his own friggin' corruption problems.
Well, John Liu, we're in a strange time right now.
And Stringer was behind him. That's when you know you got a problem.
So Stringer jumped from the mayor's race to the comptroller's race, and then he seemingly had the entire race to himself. No one was running. And so because no one was running, there was no attention, there was no forums, there was no interviews, there was no press. So he's still at single digits in the polls because it was kind of taken for granted that he was going to win the race.
Almost reminds me of the guy that ran against Donald Maness when he killed himself, and Maness still won.
And he still won.
And he still won. It's amazing what happened.
The name recognition. They did a
9-colored episode on that with Dan Fielding running against the dead guy, and the dead guy being Fielding. With
Congressman Ted Weiss. When he passed away, he was still on the ballot.
You were involved in that campaign.
I was. Ted passed away 2 days before the primary, and he was on the front page of every newspaper in New York for having died. 2 days later, he won by the largest percentage ever, because the name recognition had spiked because he was on the front page of every newspaper.
You had to be young when you worked on that.
I was young. I was a kid.
Did it jade you?
I was a kid. No, it was a learning experience. Look, name recognition is a huge part of this.
So you think this is because you see
Elliot Spitzer has like 90% name recognition.
You have Anthony Weiner. This is ahead of Christine Quinn.
Yes.
In the leading polls.
Yes.
Now, is this name recognition?
It is. I think so. Yeah, yeah.
So is it like Tallulah Bankhead said, there's no such thing as bad publicity?
We're in a strange time right now in America. We were talking earlier that someone like Kim Kardashian this year will make more money than all of us combined.
But look who's up against Spitzer, the madam that he put in jail.
The madam.
She's on the libertarian line.
She ran for governor already once. Roger Stone is her political consultant. Roger ran her on a libertarian line. He has this thing that if he can run someone for governor, it's brilliant. I mean, Roger Stone is a Republican consultant, but a brilliant one. And he's convinced that if he can get a libertarian pro-marijuana legalization line on the ballot in New York State, every year it'll take away 5 percentage points from the Democratic candidate.
What do you think of that?
And make the Republicans more competitive.
What do you think about that philosophy? As a consultant,
he is a really, really clever man.
What do you think? You've been in this business.
I have.
Do you think there's
New York State has a deep-seated problem with third-party cross endorsements and third parties in New York State. The Independence Party is a problem in New York State. A lot of people don't know that they're members of the Independence Party.
We have talked about this.
It wields a lot more power and influence probably than it should.
Right, but now we're talking about the libertarian. Nobody's going to give me. You had actively say I'm a libertarian.
You're very much a libertarian.
No, I'm a contrarian, but they
You're
don't have a party for
contrarian.
that. But what I'm saying is, as a political consultant, are they telling Weiner and Spitzer, you've got name recognition, you should do this? Or do you think other things went into this?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, they're politicians, and they crave not only the attention, but they want people to like them. It's like
politics is showbiz for the ugly.
It's funny. I remember a friend of mine was a big fan of Ayn Rand and Ayn Rand books, and that's all about the virtue of selfishness and yourself. And I said, I can't see that. I don't agree with a lot of that. And they said, well, you're a politician. You're the exact opposite. Politicians want people to like them. And so the way that they get that validity is through elections and through polls. Oh, they like me. They voted for me. And so this is their redemption. This is how Anthony Weiner and Spitzer get redemption.
If they approached you, would you get involved in their campaigns?
I am thankfully very busy right now. So I have a lot of other campaigns I'm working on, so I don't have to.
You would send them to a Republican.
I would. Well, I'm sure they already have people that are working for them. I mean, people will take those jobs.
But let me ask you, as a consultant, again, as a fundraiser, Now you and I have been
Spitzer
friends.
can win this thing.
You and I have been friends for what, 6 years, 7 years? How long have we
Yeah,
been?
and I know Elliot. I'm friends. I mean, he's a friend.
You worked on his campaign.
I worked on his campaign for
That's
governor.
what we talked about when you ran for council.
Yeah.
I said the man even worked for CO.
I know
You've
him.
done this, yes.
I know his wife Silda, and I mean, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant man.
But what I want to say is, I said, we've been friends for what, 7 years?
Oh yeah, long time.
Long time now. And if I wanted to run for office, now you know my politics, would you take me on as a client, even though we disagree more times than we agree?
Yeah, probably. You'd be fun. You'd be a fun candidate.
So it wouldn't bother
But
you.
you'd have to run on the Democratic line.
I'm not registered to anybody. I'm literally a non. I wasn't dumb enough to write independent and think I was
There you
independent.
go. Then I could do that.
I'm a
Yeah,
non.
yeah. Run as a Democrat. I could totally do that.
That would be fun.
Yeah, for state senate, I heard there's an opening. Oh, I said I wasn't going to mention him.
Now, in all seriousness, now we have county legislative race, District
Correct.
1, which encompasses Peekskill, Cortland, 40% of Yorktown. Okay, and it's Cortland up to Croton. Croton is not.
And this is, right now, it's represented by John Testa.
Correct, who's a Republican. But now he's got a competitor named Dwayne Jackson.
Dwayne Jackson.
And Dwayne Jackson has got a moniker, the hero of...
The hero of Times Square.
Correct. John Test even gave him an award, and President Obama called him.
And he's an elected official, Dwayne Jackson.
Buchanan,
He's not
trustee in
a guy
Buchanan.
off the street.
Right,
He's
he's trustee in Buchanan.
trustee in Buchanan.
Now, my question is this. Do you see, I mean, because sometimes it's like the incumbents have such an overwhelm. Do you see this one being a competitive race?
I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be competitive. It's a Republican district.
No,
As a matter of fact, the last time they redrew the lines,
they made it more Republican.
they made it more Republican. And that was...
But that was agreement down in county that this was going to be a Republican district.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean it has
They
to...
actually referred to it as a super Republican district.
Well, but it doesn't necessarily mean because the registration for Democrats is still heavy. I mean, you got...
Correct.
You got Peekskill and Cortland, which are two
It's a
totally
tough-
Democrat governments.
It's a tough district for the Democrat because it is deliberately drawn as a super Republican district. They did that to alleviate and make the other districts in northern Westchester more Democratic by kind of pushing Republicans this direction and drawing the lines in a way to do that. But Dwayne Jackson is a very formidable candidate because A, he's not a guy off the street. He is an elected official, so he's had races and he's a trustee. Secondly, he's a veteran. And there's a lot of veterans in this area. A lot of veterans.
Yes, you do. He's a veteran. He's a small business owner.
And he's a hero.
I believe he's got food vendor things in New York
He was
City,
invited to the White House, to the State of the Union. They wrote a book about him.
I mean, this guy's got a great resume.
He was, if you don't remember, the hero of Times Square. He was the guy, he was working down in Times Square, and he saw the smoke suspiciously coming out of an SUV, and he's the one who alerted everyone, evacuated the area, and contacted the police.
Well, this is why we
if
said
that bomb had gone off, I mean, a lot of people would have been killed.
What happened in Boston could not happen in New York. Because Boston, they saw these knapsacks. Nobody thought twice about it because they were complacent. Somebody in New York, because you see this on the trains all the time. There's an empty bag on the platform. And somebody
see something, say something.
Then they do.
Yep.
Because we were a prime target on 9/11, and people, even though it's 10 years, 12 years removed.
And we need people like Dwayne Jackson who are vigilant.
Well, I think the people are vigilant. They do say something. They're not complacent. They believe it can happen again. And
Dwayne has a kind of a presence. He's very tall, powerful looking, former military.
I think he's even taller than Dominic.
Yeah, he's a tall guy.
Let's make you feel
very, very. I got him on girth though, so I'm okay. I make up for it in width.
Now, you're not the chairman of the Peekskill Democrat Party anymore.
No, Marina Ciotti is the chairman.
Right. Now, you guys have got the Democrat. You got your signatures for the Democrats.
Correct. Here in the city of Peekskill, the Democrats are all running for re-election. There's no primary or anything like that. They're all incumbents. They're all in office now. They're just running for re-election.
On the independence line?
I think on the independence line there will be, only because we're going to see that county-wide. There was a fight, for lack of a better word, between the Independence Party and the Republican Party. always, the Independence Party had cross-endorsed the Republicans, especially up in this area. And something happened. There was a rift in their relationship, and now the Independence Party has gone ahead and endorsed not only Noam Branson for county executive, but all the Democrats locally.
I think the only Republican.
Dwayne Jackson is nominated.
Right.
All the Democrats nominated. So the Republicans are very upset by that.
I can't think of one Republican that got the independence endorsement.
So they're going to
all
the Republicans from Rob Astorino and the county executive straight down to the local ticket are all going to try an opportunity ballot.
Which
big
now,
fight,
what is
big
an
fight
opportunity to ballot?
Well, it's interesting.
Because we talked about that on the last show. What is it?
Yeah, this is interesting. So if you are not a member of a party, the party can give you their line, but they choose the person they want to give it to. And here locally, they gave it to all the Democrats. So they gave them the line. Other people, though, who say, I think that the membership should be allowed to vote in a primary and choose who carries the banner in November, they can try to do a write-in campaign. They won't appear on a ballot because they're not a member of that party. But they can try to do a write-in campaign. That's an opportunity to ballot. If they collect enough signatures and petitions to force a write-in campaign, then that's what happens on
with
primary
these new
day.
electronic voting machines, this
Much
is
easier
than it was in the old push lever machines.
Much easier.
That's why, I mean, we saw that with Greg Ball
Correct.
and Steve Katz a couple of years ago with the conservative line.
It's much easier to do it now.
And an insurgent can actually win that.
Because back in the day, people used to walk into the machine, see the candidates, and vote. And they didn't.
And the writing thing was hidden behind the
You'd have to bring a pen. You'd have to figure out how to do it. You'd have to expose it. It was quite the ordeal. Now you walk in, they actually give you the piece of paper and they give you a pen.
Right.
And they make
right
it
on the ballot,
darn
there's a
easy
place
to go
write
ahead.
it a name.
Correct.
I mean, it's a lot easier, but like I said, we saw this with Steve Katz and Greg Ball. They were denied the conservative nomination. Mm-hmm. They did the opposite, and they actually won it from the nominated candidates from the party.
That's right. But you know, these in a local election for something like that, but the turnout is so low.
Well, I always says whoever can get their friends and family to the polls wins those kind of primaries.
Oh yeah, I mean these elections are, out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that live here, 100 might show up, and if 100 show up, Andy, you need. 50.
These are the minor party. We're not talking about the major
Oh
party.
yeah, no, this is the Independence Party. This
right.
is,
We're talking about the minor secondary.
But you can win that with 51 votes.
I remember.
Right? 50, if 100 people show up, 51 wins the election.
George Ross was in that primary for the conservative line. And what did he get? 30? He won because he got 32 votes.
Yep.
With 32 votes, he won the conservative line. This going back.
And that gives you an entire line that translates to hundreds of votes and percentage points on election day. They say that the independence line would give you 5 percentage points.
Now, would you
That's
say
huge.
that the winner of the independence line in the primary has a better shot in November? So, like, that's how important the primary is?
Well, you know what? This is where it gets interesting.
I'm talking about momentum.
No.
No.
No, and I'll tell you why. The Democratic Party in northern Westchester has never had the independence line. And they have successfully been winning elections the last 5-6 years.
Oh, yeah.
So what we always say to people is the numbers show that the Democratic line doesn't need the independence line to win. If we get it, it'll be terrific. It'll be 5 percentage points more. So I think it's a little more important for the Republican Party locally because they've become kind of accustomed to that, to having that line. And they depend on that 5 percentage points.
Okay, now, we got a little less than 5 minutes left. Let's talk about your Democrat program to bring guns out of the closet. Now, what do you feel about a rifle?
It's not a Democrat. It's not a Democrat program.
What do you think about a rifle marrying a pistol? I mean, or a shotgun wedding?
Guns are coming out. No, what it is we're doing a program here in Peekskill. It's called the Safe Streets program, and it made a lot of press. Our Chief of Police, Eric Johansson, has done a great job implementing the program.
What is Safe Streets?
Well, it's a 2-part program to try to get guns off the streets in Peekskill. So the first part is a gun tip line. The number is 914-468 4GUN or 914-468-4486. And that's a number that people can call in, and you get a $500 reward if you identify an illegal gun that gets off the street, orchestrated by the Peekskill Police Department. There's also going to be a gun buyback program in a couple of months.
Now, how much is this costing the taxpayers?
Zero. Absolutely nothing. Thank you for mentioning that.
How can a Democrat idea not cost taxpayer
No
money?
tax money is used in this program at all. All of the money,
thought of this, didn't it?
the money is either asset forfeiture money through the police department, or we held fundraisers. And we held a fundraiser here in the city of Peekskill and raised thousands and thousands of dollars.
For those that missed last week's show, you were just trying to raise $2,500, and you exceeded that.
We did. We raised, the fundraiser we had at Firehouse Grill actually raised over $3,000, much more than the $2,500 we needed to kickstart the program. And then the Peekskill Rotary donated $1,000 to help out the cause.
Well, they're a community organization.
They are.
So you would recommend this being one of the charities for your other community organizations?
And the gun buyback program, you know, it's not controversial. This is not about if you have the right to have a gun or not have a gun.
No, because this is voluntary. You're
totally voluntary.
You're not mandating.
No. The fact is, if a community hasn't done this, there are guns lying around in a garage or in a closet that people just don't want. Maybe it was a husband's and he passed away, and now this widowed woman who's an older woman, she's got this gun in her house, she wants to get rid of it.
Well, I told this story when Eric was on the show. My father died, but he had 2 guns, and my mother had to bring him down to the in South Carolina.
Yeah.
But because she told one of her next door neighbors was a South Carolina cop, he said, "Fran, let me drive you because you don't want to be pulled over."
People are nervous about it.
Right, so you don't want to be pulled over with the guns in your car because they're licensed to your husband.
There's widowed
so
seniors.
So he drove you to the police station and turned in the gun.
They know it's worth something, and you're not going to just throw it in the garbage where someone can find it. But if you keep it in your garage or your closet, inevitably some child or grandchild is going to find it, and tragedy might happen. So this is a great way to just get them out of the home.
We're showing more than just in Peekskill, their surrounding areas, and we're down to 2 minutes. Can other surrounding areas, people in our viewing area, they could call and make arrangements?
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say drive the gun into people, but they would make arrangements.
And we're doing it in conjunction with the county, hopefully. We don't have to do it on our own. We could do it with the county, because what they want is uniformity amongst all the municipalities. So we're all giving the same amount of money, so that people don't say, well, Mount Vernon pays more than Peekskill.
No, but what I'm saying, that if they lived in Yorktown, they could make arrangements with the police to come and get this thing,
and it's
so they don't have to
full amnesty, no questions asked. People just drop off a gun or a rifle.
No, you're still collecting money.
Yes, thank you.
Where can they send a check?
People can make a check out to the Peekskill Police Department. In the memo line, just write Safe Streets. You could drop that off at the police department, City Hall, or any police officer in the city. And we'd appreciate the money, because it's going to be a big program.
Well, how about if I slip you with 20?
I'd love it. I'd love it, and I'd make sure I'd get it to the police as quickly as possible, because we're on television. And I have to hand it over now, because everyone knows.
You know, now I assume you're going to be on before the election.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be back. Yes.
Now, one show you will.
You should invite Dwayne Jackson to come.
I will. I'll try that. Don't do that. I got to let you know that you will be on you put on your BlackBerry when we cease taping. You're going to be on the November 6th show.
Oh, good.
It's the show we tape right after Election Day.
Oh, good.
So we'll be able to, because you did that last year for us.
Yep.
You won the show right after Election Day.
It'll be interesting. It could be Anthony Weiner, Elliot Spitzer. Maybe right in New York City.
So I want you to look in the camera and tell the audience that you're going to be here November 6th to go over the election races.
I'm going to be here November 6th. Count on it.
You'll put that on your BlackBerry, because this is more than enough notice.
I'm Volpe. I'm Dominic Volpe. And I promise I'll be there.
Right. And these are what I say. What say you, Darren? We got an interesting, it's not going to be a boring summer, because there are primaries everywhere. Oh, yeah. And tell the people to vote on the primary. Let them know.
Please vote in the primary. It's critical. It's almost more important than that's not true. No,
no, it's
vote in November. That's the important one.
I know, but in some of the races, there is November without September.
But in Peekskill, there's November. So.
Right, but in some of the other areas, there's no November without a September.
Poor Dominic, yeah.
Yes, like Dominic.